This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. So I caught this great article in the Financial Times titled, "A Warning for the Losers of the Liberal Elite. If you make the same mistakes in the battles of 2017, populist will win everywhere." Written by Wolfgang Monschau. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. To excuse my lack of German proficiency. I love articles like this because it allows me to get into a debate with someone who says some things that I wholeheartedly agree with, but then weaves in just absolute assumptions, made up facts, made up visions, made up dreams that just don't exist in reality. I'm going to read some passages from this piece and give some comment where comment is deserved. From the article. Starting this week, we need to get our heads around the possibility that U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is simultaneously reprehensible and economically successful, at least for some time. The instinct has often been to conflate political decency and economic efficiency because this is what has been done for such a long time. Fortuitously, our open liberal systems also happen to be the most efficient. They even produced an acceptable distribution of income until about 10 years ago. Yet, the period from 1989 to 2007 was exceptional. History is littered with economically successful dictators and economically disastrous liberal Democrats. Let me dig in there for a second. First, it's absolutely impossible to know whether or not Donald Trump will be economically successful. First, let's go back in time. Do you actually give credit to Barack Obama for the stock market going up so much since March of 2009? Because if you give credit to him for that, you need to give credit to Bill Clinton for the stock market going up so much from 1994 to the year 2000. But what happened after the year 2000? That stock market that went up so high during Bill Clinton's 2 terms in office collapsed. The NASDAQ went down 77%. So the stock market goes up. During Clinton, he leaves office, it goes down. Did he make it go up? Did he make it go down? Did Obama make the stock market go up? Has Trump initiated a Trump rally in the last few months to make the stock market go up even higher? Does anyone have any facts, any details, the research to really connect the dots that these presidents are responsible for equity booms and busts? That evidence does not exist. He also says something in that excerpt. They even produced an acceptable distribution of income until about 10 years ago. Acceptable distribution of income. Whose acceptable distribution of income? How does that work? Who is the team, the mystery team sitting behind the scenes that decides what the acceptable distribution of income is? What's unacceptable? Is there a number? Let's just assume they define the number as 5. So 4, 6, unacceptable, acceptable. You see, this is happy talk. Acceptable distributions don't exist in a capitalist society. It's winner take all. And if you don't like that, then you need to put your creative thinking cap on, your creative change cap on, and get to work. Because if all you want is a job, God, I hate that word, job. Isn't it amazing that in 2017 we are still parroting this phrase, job? Most jobs today are not jobs people want. They're ways to make money, to get by, to hopefully get to the better place. A long time ago, I worked in the stockroom at Circuit City, an electronics retailer. Me and 5 black guys. I say that because that's a fact. That's who worked in the stockroom with me. It was the 6 of us. And we had a blast. Maybe I was 19, 18, something like that. I learned a lot. I learned that I did not want to do that. I made some money. I got a lot of discounted electronics, some massive speakers, and I learned I did not want to work in the stockroom. That was a job. No one wants a job. You want to have control. You want to have freedom. And how the hell can you have control or freedom if somebody, in this case, a Financial Times reporter, actually thinks there's an acceptable distribution of income? Let's just break that down. What that really means is a group of people in a back room decide what you get paid. Based on what? Production? No. Fairness of outcome. That's all they want. Fairness of outcome. As long as everyone is equal, but stay with the fantasy for a moment, as long as everyone is equal, it's acceptable. Now, this author takes this article in some winding directions, but I like some of these things he says. Consider. The truth is that our ability to forecast the future beyond the current quarter is limited. We certainly cannot forecast the economic impact of a complex political event such as Brexit or the election of a new U.S. president. Too many future unforeseen events will intrude. He's spot on there, but let me correct him a little bit. Forecast the future beyond the current quarter? You might not be able to forecast the future beyond the current minute, the current day, the current week. Forget the quarter. Where's the research that shows me that Wall Street can forecast events 3 months in advance? Let me see the accuracy of that. Again, I'm not so sure that exists. If it does, I'll be shown the exit door and proven wrong. But if you can forecast 90 days ahead, why not 120 days? Why not 6 months? Nobody can forecast a damn thing. And he's spot on about having the ability to forecast the economic impact. Again, I hope that Donald Trump allows the U.S. economy and in turn world economies to take off and just boom. That's my hope. I would have hoped that under Obama as well. But there's no evidence yet that that will happen under Trump. Trying to draw an inference, draw a conclusion that in a few months' time, we can see the Dow at 30,000 or 40,000. I start to feel like Jim Glassman back in the 1990s when he was predicting Dow, 30,000? I think he wrote a book, Dow 30,000, was it called? Let me read another excerpt from this Financial Times piece. We cannot translate the result of an opinion poll into an election probability either. People keep asking me to tell them the probability of Marine Le Pen, the far-right National Front leader, winning the French presidency. The problem is that the election campaign has not even started. The correct answer about the probability of a Le Pen victory is that I do not have the foggiest, nor does anyone else. Bravo! See, like I said from the beginning of this podcast episode, we're on the same page with a lot of his thinking. Now, I'm cutting out a lot here. If you go back and read the article, you will see he is coming throughout the piece from a very left perspective. I'm cutting that out. It doesn't really serve much purpose for where I see our agreement and disagreement. But he's spot on. My God, nobody predicted Trump other than perhaps Scott Adams of Dilbert fame. And he really did. Adams bet the farm with his persuasion perspective and the technique that Trump was using throughout the course of his campaign. Back to the Financial Times piece. The curse of our time is fake maths. Think of it as fake news for numerically literate intellectuals. It is the abuse of statistics and economic models to peddle one's own political prejudice. More often than not, there's a kernel of truth in those forecasts, as there was in the Bank of England's prediction of what could happen after Brexit. The fakeness of the maths lies in an exaggerated inference. Economic models have their uses, as do opinion polls. They provide information to policymakers and markets, but nobody can see through the fog of the future. I love that paragraph. It's at the same time terrible and uninformed, but also perfect. But nobody can see through the fog of the future. That's his last line in that paragraph. We're on the same page. Nobody can see through any of this fog into the future. That's why you need a model. You need a system, an approach that tells you when to buy and when to sell without being able to see into the future. Now back up a few sentences in that paragraph, and he says, economic models have their uses. Oh, really? What are their uses? The good professor, Spiros Makrodakis, on my podcast, he shows moving averages beat all of these econometric models. All of this complicated nonsense in the basements of all of the world's central banks. Hundreds and hundreds of PhDs computing who the hell knows what to come to some one conclusion. None of it is useful. And that's what's so amazing about this article, is literally he's saying the models have their uses, as do opinion polls. I'll get to that in a moment. But the very next sentence, but nobody can see through the fog of the future. You see the cognitive dissonance in play? He's literally beating himself up in his own mind. There is a fight in his own cranium, and no one's winning. Oh, that other point he made, as do opinion polls. Didn't Trump just prove that opinion polls are 100% useless? What did opinion polls show during the Trump campaign? And take it a step back. Nate Silver, made famous for the first two Obama campaigns because he correctly predicted the winner state by state. But then Nate Silver gets to Trump and wets the bed. Completely doesn't predict anything right and has mea culpas all over the internet. Back to the article, he makes a great point here. Fake maths has given us, the liberal establishment, the illusion of certainty. He's right about that. He's 100% right about that. Fake math, I don't know exactly who the liberal establishment is. I guess there's a conservative establishment and there's an anarchy establishment. There's people like me that don't want to be a part of any fucking establishment. But he's right. This illusion of certainty in a world that is highly uncertain and always will be. Using the word certainty should be a dead giveaway. That the person that's telling you they are certain doesn't know what they're talking about. Look, my big picture here is quite simple. Econ models, opinion polls, attempting to connect who the president is to the stock market or to the economy. Pointless exercise. Futility. Why do you have to do it? Isn't that the big question? If we know this doesn't work, and I can point out, ripping this one article apart, if we know this is all nonsense, all mental masturbation, then why do it? Back to that certainty thing. We don't like uncertainty, so we have to make up narratives nonstop. If we don't have the narrative, apparently we will all wet the bed with everyone else. Doesn't this give anybody the feeling of like, hey, wow, if this is how the vast majority of people think, and it's clearly helter-skelter, why not go the opposite direction? Why not go the alternate way, the alternative way? Just pack your bags and go the polar opposite direction as to everyone else. But you see, that starts with a certain mindset. If you or you train your kids to come along in a certain way, let's say that way is to go to XYZ school, get XYZ grade, trust that XYZ teachers will teach the right stuff to get the right job, you might wake up when you're 25 years of age and start to listen to a podcast like this. And instead of really taking the message in and being open, you say, fuck you, I'm not listening to this guy Covel. Fuck him. It's not just me, of course. I'm just channeling a zillion other people that have been on this podcast, all the names, the books, the references that we all know we can go and find to show that uncertainty is the rule. Every day it's a fight. It's a challenge. You got to wake up, get energized, find out where the bodies are buried, know who's hiding behind what tree, and figure the game out. But I want permission. Please, can I have permission to do this exercise? No, there's no permission. The good ones, the great ones, the successful ones, the achievers don't ask for permission. They don't exist in a world where you talk about acceptable income distributions. The good ones exist in a world to invent the next Facebook, invent the next Uber. Mark Zuckerberg is rich as shit. And you know what? That's great. Because he was just a guy in college. He put it together. He launched it. The world loved it. They bought into his thing. And now he's made a fortune that will go on for literally probably 1,000 years. That's life. That should be celebrated. That should be praised. That's exciting. That's not a negative. Man, if you think Zuckerberg, if you think any of these guys, the Peter Thiels of the world, even the Donald Trumps of the world, if you find success grating, if you find it alarming, if you want to find somebody in a government office to fix it for you, you're going to waste so much time in your life trying to get there through channels, through permission, through trying to get the system to work for you. Don't you realize how much time you're going to waste? It's much more efficient to go do it by yourself. Take your shot at it. If you lose, so what? At least you gave it a shot. At least you got bloody. At least you felt some adrenaline. You got into the damn game. You tried to make something happen. That's what it's all about. That's what always motivates me. And I hope like hell, for those of you out there that like this podcast, and I know there's a few of you, we're all on the same damn team. I want to hear your stories. I love hearing the stories. Let me know what you're up to. Any type of success, any type of field, any type of discipline. Your success motivates me. That's right. Success of people that I don't even know motivates me. It makes me excited. I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe that should be the norm. We all get excited when somebody comes up with something, when somebody does something great. Maybe that sounds foreign to you. You say to yourself, why the hell should I feel great when Bob invents XYZ and makes $1 billion? Maybe that should be the jumping off point for the conversation today. If you can't figure out yet why you should be excited by Bob and his newfound $1 billion company, you got a hell of a lot of work to do. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, Trend Following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.